Welcome to the arithmetic zone, and today we're going to do more DOM. So it's been a while, but we're back in Visual Studio Code. I'm in my DOM folder, which is in my CS folder, which I opened it from here. And last time, if you don't remember, let's just go live and see what we did. We basically did a little rundown of DOM where we grabbed all these document elements from the HTML file and referred to them in our JavaScript file so we can manipulate them using JavaScript. So what we're going to do today, we're going to learn even more cool things we can do with DOM, but I don't want to use the same folder. I want to make a new folder and a new set of files for our web page. So let's make not a new folder there. Let's open our folder from CS if we haven't already. And we're going to make a new folder. We're going to call it more DOM. So within here, we're going to have all our files. We're going to have our HTML file, our CSS file, and our JavaScript file. So again, oh, are these all? Okay, they're not actually in the folder. Gotta move them all. Alright. So again, to start in our HTML file, we're gonna put an exclamation mark and then tab, space, or save this document. Let's rename it appropriately, more DOM. And then alright, so go live. So we're gonna see nothing, obviously. So that's where our content for today comes in. Let's go back, and in our body tag, we're gonna introduce another HTML tag that I haven't gone over. It's gonna be the form. Now, if we were to go back to our website, you're gonna see nothing there. Inside of our form tag, we're gonna need to use a couple of other tags. One of them being input. Save. Now we have a little text box, which is the default for the input tag. Let's write in a label so we know what this is referring to. Enter a value. Save. Now we have enter a value right next to the text box. And then to complete it, we're going to have a button so that we can submit values using our little text box. So we just made a basic little text form in our website, but what are we going to do with this? We got to give this some values. In order to do something with this form, we're going to have to use our JavaScript file. But remember what we learned last time. In order to access elements that from our web page, which we made on our HTML, we're going to have to give all these different tags IDs so we can refer to them in our JavaScript. So input, let's give it the ID of input, and then button, let's give it the ID of button. Just keep it simple. Now in our JavaScript file, we want to refer to these elements we just put IDs on. So let's submit button equal document.get element by ID, and then we gave it the ID of button. Likewise for the text tag, let's say input box equals document.get element by ID input. Is that what I called it? Yes. So using the concept of DOM, we can refer to these tags and want to do some functionality with what we just connected. So obviously with the submit button, I want it so that when you click on it, it would do something. Now in the last video, I accomplished this by adding an event listener, but I'm going to actually show you an easier way. So refer to the element submit button, then we're going to say onclick, not like that, onclick, parentheses equals function, and then event, and then after that bracket, and we're going to write event.preventDefault, and then parentheses. You might be wondering, what did I just do? Well, just to prove that it works to you, let's just make it so that the whole document, the background color, becomes red when you click on this button. before we test out our JavaScript, I almost forgot we have to link our HTML and JavaScript files together. Very common mistake to forget doing this. So script source equals the JavaScript file name script.js, and then we want to write defer because we're writing it at the top. So save. So I made it so that if you click on the button, the background color turns into red. So let's see that in action, and it works. Now what happens if I were to get rid of this event.preventDefault? Let's comment it out, and now if I were to press on the submit button, you see that it flashes red, but then it just turns back to white. So what's actually happening? If you look in the top left, you can clearly see that every time I click on the submit button, it's refreshing the page. So when we use this shortcut, we're gonna have to do event.preventDefault so that we don't want our page to refresh every time we press on the submit button. We want it to stay on that red. So now we know that that works. But now I want to get the value of our input box, and I want it to display to the viewer. So let's use the alert function, and instead of putting in a string inside, let's put in whatever the user entered with the input box. Now how would I access the specific value of the input box? Well, I'd use input box, which I connected with DOM, and then dot value. This will specifically refer to what the user enters in the form. And after this is displayed, I would like it to clear. So input box dot value equals blank string. So save all that. If I were to submit something, it's gonna alert me, but it's gonna alert me with nothing. Now let's write in something, hello, submit, and now document tells me hello, and after that you can see that it clears out because I told its value to go blank. So pretty simple stuff. Now I want to take this whole concept to the next level. So we're going to go back to our HTML file, and back in our body we're going to create a div, give it an ID of new div. So we're going to save that. Nothing's going to change obviously. But what we're going to do now is, using our concept of DOM, we're going to append new HTML elements into this new div. So as you can see right now, it's completely blank. We're going to use JavaScript to just create new HTML tags. So how are we going to do that? We're going to use the form tags that we created to specify what exactly we want to add into this new div. So instead of doing alert, let's have it so that we append a new element. But first we gotta retrieve this new div we created, and we gotta set it to a specific variable using document.getElement by ID. So let new div equals document.getElement by ID, and then new div. That was the ID. So we want to add the text that we add into the form into the new div. So in order to do that, we're going to use a new function, new div.append, and inside append we're going to have the input box dot value. We're going to save that. Now let's see it in action. So let's write A, because that's what it suggested to me. Press submit, and an A appears. If I were to enter another A appears, and I can just keep on adding A's. If I add a B, we have B's now. If I write in hello, it's gonna add in a hello. It's gonna keep adding hellos every time I press on the button. If I just spam my keyboard with whatever nonsense I write, and I keep pressing submit, it's gonna keep adding that text into this new div. Now obviously it's adding them without spaces, and that's because I didn't do anything with my CSS to like separate them. Obviously we can fix that right now. Write in hashtag new div, because it is an ID, so we need the hashtag. Let's display flex semicolon, and then let's write in justify content space around, so we can have some space between everything. So we're gonna have to go back to index.html. We're gonna have to link the HTML and CSS together. So within the same area as script source, we're gonna write in link rel equals style sheet, and then href equals whatever you named your CSS file. Style.css is what I named it. If we save everything, go back to our web page. So let's enter our values again. Notice how it starts from the center this time. That's because we set the display mode to flex. If I were to add this again, well, it doesn't really give it the space that I wanted it to. So when these sort of things happen, we're gonna have to find workarounds. So let's enter our values again, and if I were to inspect element, we can see in this div that we can see all the values we just entered. If we go back into our HTML file, it's not actually there because we just entered those values, and then using JavaScript we put them into the HTML file. But you can see that it's just text in a div file, so of course it wouldn't be separated. A good way to separate them would be to make it so that each one of these texts have their own tag. Let's say a p tag, the paragraph. So, but how are we gonna do that? We don't have any p tags in our index.html file. We're gonna have to make them. So here's where creating elements truly comes. So every time we click on this button, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say let new p equals document dot, instead of get element by ID, we're gonna say create element. Make sure you spell it right, unlike me. So create element. What element do we want to create? We want to create the p tag, the paragraph. So now we just have this floating p tag, but it's not actually appended into anything. So we're gonna write p dot, okay, it actually doesn't let me do it. Alright, new p, there we go, dot inner HTML, and equal, we're gonna have the index box dot value, we're gonna move it right here. So we just made a p tag, and we just made its text the value of the input box, but we still have to append it to the new div. So now we're gonna append the new p tag we just made. So let's save, go back to our website, everything cleared, let's enter our values. Alright, submit, and wow, now everything is spaced out. If I were to enter more, it's gonna, keep on entering them. It's gonna keep losing space, but regardless, it's gonna work. Why does it work? Go back to inspect element. In our div file, now all the queries have p tags, and the way the way display flex works, if you remember, is that in the parent container, which is the div, it takes all the tags inside of it and then it separates them. You can't just have nothing but text inside because none of them have their tags. There's no way for the program to know how to differentiate between them. So with this, we can properly space out everything. Instead of adding text, let's add in something more interesting like images. I'm going to reuse all the car images I had in that first website we made together. So I'm going to see if I can copy this folder and move it into more DOM. Alright, that worked out very well. I'm going to actually get rid of the logo. We don't need that. So Control X, it should be gone. So now we have this images folder we can refer to. So instead of adding in text, let's add in images. So let's comment all this out because we're not gonna use the input box anymore. We want to refer to all these different images we have in our images folder, and what I want to do is every time you press the submit button, it alternates the image that it appends into the div. So it's gonna go from car to car 2, then car 3, then back to car. So this is where our JavaScript knowledge has to come in. We're gonna make an array. So let's make let car list equal bracket, and then I want to name it based on what the images are called. So car, make sure it's in strings, car 2, and then car 3. And then I also want an index value, so let index, and we're going to set it to 0. Remember, this refers to 0, this refers to 1, and this refers to 2 based on the index. So now I actually do not want to comment off event.preventDefault. We are going to need that. Let's make a new element new image. So document dot create element and then img for image, and the image needs a source, which is gonna be all these car files that we have in our images folder. So new img dot source, basically whatever you can have in your index, whatever you can have in your HTML file, like inside of the tags, like the dot, like you see this ID, you can refer to it through the element with dot. So you know how image tags have source inside of the tag, so you can have an image element and then say dot source. But how do we refer to the images? Remember, it's in a folder. It's called images, so we're gonna have to specify the folder name first, images, then slash. Then we want the specific index of the car. So we can use car list right here to get the job done. So car list bracket I, or index, because index is at 0 for now. And then we're gonna need the file extension name. So plus, and then more quotes, and then notice how one of these just so happens to be called, one of these happens to be a PNG file, which is unfortunate, but we can easily change that because we can just rename it. And a nice thing is that there's really nothing you lose when you rename a JPG and PNG file like this on JavaScript. There might be like some loss in quality, but it's barely noticeable and it works for our purposes. So make it all consistent .jpg. So now after that, we're gonna add it to new div.append new img. But then we're gonna have to increase the index, so index ++, but we want it to go back to 0 once it reaches 3, because we only want it to access 0, 1, and 2. So we're gonna write a condition: if index is greater than 2, we're gonna set index back to 0. Now that was a lot we just added, so let's make sure everything works. We might have to debug, but so I just removed all the functionality of the form, so writing in anything here isn't really gonna do anything. But if I press the submit button, we see a car image pop up. It's pretty big. And then if I press it again, it goes to the second one. If I press it again, it goes to the third one. If I press it again, it goes back to the first one. It's pretty big, so let me just make it so that the width of the images, is not so large. So you can also write new image.style.width, and then we can just say 100 pixels, so it's all consistent. Go back, let's start again. So alright, there we go. We got a car, then we got another car, the second car, then the third car, then the fourth car, which is the first one, then we go to the second one again, then the third one again, and so on and so forth. So look at that. We just successfully combined our knowledge of arrays and conditions and image files to make this cool little program, this cool little website. So anyway, that's gonna do it for today. That's about as much knowledge as I'm gonna give you on DOM for now. In the next video, we're gonna take this whole creating elements concept to the next level. We're gonna really see how this can come in handy. So I'll see you guys next time.